So recently, Microsoft and Sony both released their next generation consoles, the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5 respectively. Now, of course, we did videos taking a look at both the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5, essentially reviewing these consoles, telling you guys the strengths and the weaknesses of these. But still, even with those, there's been so many questions, with the main question being, which system is better? Which is the better system for me? The Xbox Series X or the PlayStation 5? And I feel like that's a very deep sort of question. It's not something that you can answer simply with a single word, so why not put it into a video form? So essentially what we're going to be doing in today's video is we're going to put these two systems up against each other in several key areas and try to figure out which system is better. And really, at the end of the day, it's not about which system is better overall, it's about which system is better for you. So sit back, relax, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet, and let's take a look at the Xbox Series X versus the PlayStation 5 and see what the better system is. Now, the first key category we're going to take a look at is something that I don't think it would bother a lot of people, but there is a group of people out there that it would bother. So it's something I want to talk about very briefly, and that will be the design of the consoles themselves from both a practical and an ergonomical standpoint. Now, taking a look at the Xbox Series X, it is a very bland sort of system. It's essentially a triangle that stands up. It has a big fan on the top of the system as well to remove heat. That can get a bit warm. There are additional fans on the back of the system. And of course, the front of the system being in all black, it does sort of get finger marks on there and stuff, get a little bit of dirt and grime. I am a greasy Italian, like I keep saying to you people, so there are fingerprints on it. But I do think as an overall look, it's a very sleek system. It's very simple, but I think it gets the job done. And then you have this. The PlayStation 5. Now look, I know beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and you know, beauty can change in the eye of the beholder if you have a few drinks. I mean, we've all had those questionable mornings where we wake up and we're like, oh, what is this? What is this next to me? But the PlayStation 5, like, come on guys, it's ugly. Like, this is an ugly, like, look at it. Look, what is this? What is this? A giant router, and it's white. It picks up dirt very easily. The disk drive is like upside down on it. So many people are having trouble putting their disks into this system because they thought it wasn't reading, but it's because you actually have to do it upside down versus every other Sony console. It doesn't really look flush with anything. It's really big and gaudy. Like, it's an ugly system. And you know, like I said at the start, this isn't a big deal for a lot of people, but if you're an adult and you have someone coming over to your house, you kind of want your house to look, you know, somewhat nice and presentable. And I feel like the Xbox Series X is a much better looking console. If you saw this at someone's house, you're like, no, okay, that's a computer or some sort of weird thing like that. You see this at someone's house and you're like, what the hell is this? What is this UFO style shape? So when it comes to these, just the design of the console itself, I do think that both of these systems do get the job done. Of course, the cooling system on the PlayStation 5 is very nice, but simply from an aesthetical standpoint, the Xbox Series X is the better looking console. So the Xbox Series X is out in front 1-0 against the PlayStation 5, but now we have to talk about things that will just actually matter a bit more. The first being the controller. Now the Xbox Series X controller is pretty similar to the Xbox One controller. They really didn't change up all that much stuff besides adding in the share button on the front of the controller. Now the share button allows you to basically share and capture footage or pictures from your game that you are playing, making it a very seamless experience. Now the main thing that they changed on this controller is adding a grip to the back of the controller and the trigger buttons on this. And honestly, I like this a lot. It is a lot more comfortable having this grip on the back of it than it is on the Xbox One. The controller feels a lot more firm in your hand, and it just does a really good job of keeping everything nice and tidy when you are playing your games. You don't have to worry about your hand slipping if you get a little bit sweaty playing a competitive game. But overall, the Xbox Series X controller, like I said, very similar to the original Xbox One controller, so there isn't a whole lot going on with this. Now with the PlayStation 5 controller, they really went out of their way to make this a different and unique controller versus the DualShock 4 controller. The DualSense controller is a beautiful controller in terms of playing your games, and there's several reasons for that. One of the main reasons is, of course, the haptic feedback. It's really something you have to sort of feel to believe. When you're playing Astrobot's Playroom, it's really just a tech demo essentially that lasts quite a while. It's actually a pretty fun game, but this tech demo essentially introduces you to all the features of the PlayStation 5 controller. such as the haptic feedback, the microphone, the touchpad on the controller, and a lot more. Once you feel the haptic feedback, I think it feels absolutely amazing how it really just sort of transforms the way you're playing these games and gives you a level of interactivity that you might not have felt before. Is it a bit of a gimmick? Will a lot of companies actually use the haptic feedback in an interesting way for their upcoming games? That definitely remains to be seen, but at least the technology is there to where they could do something like that. Now, I still don't like that the controller is all white. I'll have a shot of the back of the controller where you can see my greasy, disgusting hand marks, and it picks up dirt and dust way too easily and just sort of grime and stuff. It's obviously something you're gonna have to wipe down with like a wet wipe or something from time to time to keep it clean. But overall, Microsoft essentially kept it safe with their controller, and I think they did a good job. But the DualSense controller is a fantastic piece of technology. It feels great in your hand. It also has that grip on the back of the controller as well, and the addition of things like a haptic feedback system and a built-in microphone definitely give it the advantage over the Xbox Series X controller. So right now we are tied up 1-to-1. When it comes to design, I think the Xbox Series X looks a lot better. When it comes to the controller, I think the DualSense controller has a little bit more of a punch to it than the Xbox Series X controller does. But the next thing we're going to talk about is something very important, and that is the user interface and essential features that come with both of these systems. Now, the Xbox Series X has a user interface that is very similar to the Xbox One as far as when the recent update went into effect. I think it gets the job done. It's very nice. It's very clean. The Xbox Series X allows for things like the quick resume feature, which essentially allows you to load up a bunch of different games all at once, and you can play them just by switching from game to game. That's a really nice feature that you might not use all that much, but it is nice that it is there. And of course, one of the main additions to the Xbox Series X is the inclusion of Game Pass, which was available on the Xbox One as well, but I think it's a bit more pronounced on the Xbox Series X because you're seeing games getting essentially free upgrades from the Xbox One version to the Xbox Series X version that are available to play on Game Pass. Now, yes, Game Pass does cost an additional amount of money, but I feel like the value you're getting with Game Pass, it's an essential thing if you're picking up an Xbox Series X. And of course, it's commonly on sale for like $1 a month anyways. You have to get an Xbox Live account to play online, so you're more than likely going to bundle everything together and get something like Game Pass. But the rate of return on Game Pass is just so astronomical that it really does a great job of giving you a bunch of games to play on your Xbox Series X without actually having to buy those games. On the PlayStation 5 side of things, they sort of went in a different direction. Now, when you played the PlayStation 4, the menu system was fine, I felt, but it was kind of a bit clunky. The PlayStation 5 definitely cleans things up, but there is a little bit of a learning curve. I actually had a lot of trouble figuring out how to put the PlayStation 5 into rest mode or turn off the system from the main menu because you actually have to do it in sort of a weird way. You have to pull up like a game menu in order to do that. Now, I do think that when you pull up the game menu for when you're playing a game and you get those additional tips and tricks that are basically telling you what you're doing in a mission, how much longer you have to go in a mission as well, and of course you can get additional information if you need help on it, is a welcome feature to the PlayStation 5. It's something that I probably won't use it all that much, but I like knowing how much time I have left. If I'm in a hurry or I need to go somewhere, it's like, do I have enough time for this mission? And the PlayStation 5 will essentially tell you if you do have enough time for that mission. Now, on the online side of things, of course, one of the big additions was the PlayStation Plus inclusions for PlayStation 5 members, where you get a variety of different games that you can download if you are a PlayStation Plus member to play on your PlayStation 5. Mostly PS4 games that have been sort of tinkered with in order to play better on the PlayStation 5. And I think this is a great inclusion, but it's definitely not a replacement for something like Game Pass. Game Pass has new games coming out on it, major first-party titles that are new releases, third parties, indies, and a great variety of stuff from retro and current games, whereas PlayStation Plus is definitely a lot more limited. It's a step in the right direction, and it's allowed me to check out games that I did not play on the PlayStation 4, such as Days Gone and The Last Guardian. But still, I think in terms of overall features with the online stuff and just the UI in general, I will give a slight edge to the Xbox Series X, because I think with things like Game Pass factored in, that is essential if you pick up an Xbox product in 2020. It does give it a little bit of an advantage over the PlayStation 5. That's not to say the PlayStation 5 is a slouch in that department. I just like the Xbox Series X a little bit better in that department. So the score is now 2-1 in favor of the Xbox Series X, at least in my opinion. You may have your scorecard being done differently based on the things that I have said before. But the next thing is probably the most important thing when it comes to both of these systems, and that has to be games. Now, when it comes to the Xbox Series X, as far as new titles are concerned on the system, it's definitely a bit lacking. Yes, you still have access to those Game Pass games, which gives you a great library at a discounted price, so you have a lot of games to play. Yes, third-party games do run and look fantastic on the Xbox Series X, which is definitely a very good thing. It sort of gives you that next-generation feeling when you're playing the next-generation version of NBA 2K 2021. However, when it comes to the first-party titles and the exclusives, at least in terms of console exclusives, the Xbox Series X definitely fumbled out of the gate. Gears Tactics was the big game, which was really a game that already released on the PC quite a while ago that was, of course, brought over to the Xbox family of consoles. I did play some Gears Tactics. I thought it was a pretty decent game, but I played it in Game Pass. If I would have purchased this game, I don't think it would have been worth the money. Now, of course, the addition of Game Pass does give you access to games like that, but most of these games, if not all of these games, are games that you're going to play on your Xbox One if you already have one, aside from the third-party titles. And this, of course, is an area that the PlayStation 5 truly shines in. Now, you might be saying to yourself, well, it has the same third-party games as the Xbox Series X does, and you would be correct. You might be saying to yourself, well, you get more games with Game Pass than you do with PlayStation Plus, like you just said, and you would be absolutely correct. But there are console exclusives for the PlayStation 5 that really make this system shine. Of course, you have the included Astro Bot game, which, like I said, it's sort of a tech demo, but I think it's very fun, and it is a free game that is included with your PlayStation 5. Spider-Man Miles Morales is one of my favorite launch games of all time. Yes, this game is also still available on the PlayStation 4, but when you put up the two versions of the game side by side, the PlayStation 5 version is clearly superior. Not only in just things of terms like performance and ray tracing, but as far as the actual game is concerned. When you're playing as Spider-Man and you're down on the ground floor of New York City just walking around, on the PlayStation 5 version, the city is alive and bustling with tons of people everywhere. It's a lot sparser on the PlayStation 4 in terms of things like that, and I think it really sort of stands out. Of course, you also have the Demon's Souls Remastered available on the PlayStation 5, which is a game that I am absolutely terrible at. I don't know why I bought this game, and I'm glad I made this video so that I could talk about it just to sort of get it out of my system. I'm terrible at Demon's Souls. I'm not having a good time playing it, but I can appreciate it as being a good game, just not necessarily a game for me. And of course, in the first half of 2021, even more exclusives are coming with games like Ratchet & Clank and Gran Turismo 7. So as far as the launch cycle and the launch window of these two consoles are concerned, when it comes to the games, the clear winner is the PlayStation 5. So right now we are tied up 2-2. It's the bottom of the ninth, the end of the fourth quarter with just a second left. And we have one more category to go over to see which is the better system, the Xbox Series X or the PlayStation 5. And that comes down to the future of these consoles. Now the Xbox Series X, I feel like it has a very bright future. When you look at the launch lineup of games, it's definitely lacking. But when you look at how many studios Microsoft has acquired as of late, how many games are supposedly in production for it, the inclusion of Bethesda games potentially being exclusive to the Xbox Series X, I think in 2 years, this console is going to be a completely different beast. There's going to be first-party titles coming out at a rapid rate, and when you factor in the fact that most of those games will be available on Game Pass, so you don't even necessarily have to buy them, for the budget-conscious person, the Xbox Series X is a great addition, and I think the future will be very bright for the console. On the other side of the spectrum, with the PlayStation 5, you could say the exact same thing, just minus the Game Pass thing. We already know about games like Ratchet & Clank, Gran Turismo 7, and God of War that are supposed to be coming out in 2021. I think the immediate future of the PlayStation 5 is a lot brighter than the immediate future of the Xbox Series X. But you also have to remember something. Microsoft is still acquiring all of these companies. Is the next Elder Scrolls game or the next Fallout game going to be available on the PlayStation 5, or will it be a console exclusive to the Xbox Series X? Nobody really knows. Nobody's really giving a clear answer. But from a business perspective, you would have to imagine that, well, Microsoft wouldn't have spent $7 billion to acquire Bethesda if they didn't plan on putting their games on their system at least first, maybe even just as timed exclusives. So it really opens up a lot of interesting theories and a lot of interesting opportunities, because I think if a game like Elder Scrolls or a game like Fallout doesn't come to the PlayStation 5, but does come to the Xbox Series X, that is a big win for Microsoft. But really, the funny thing about the future is you can't predict it. You can look at trends, you can look and see how things are going, but I don't think there's a clear answer as to which console has a better future. In the immediate future, yeah, the PlayStation 5 definitely gets the advantage, but in the elongated future, when it comes to all of these first-party titles that are currently in development for the Xbox Series X, when it comes to them acquiring different companies such as Bethesda, you can't really predict where these systems are going to be 2 years from now. So I really don't have an answer for the future. I would have to say it's a tie, and that really encompasses what this video is about. This video was never about which console was actually better than the other console. It's about which console is better for you right now. Because let's be realistic, the average person isn't going to pick up both of these consoles, and if you were planning on picking up both of these consoles, you would have done it, and you wouldn't have watched this video. I really just wanted to present the information for you guys, give you guys my thoughts on both of these systems in key categories, and then let you guys decide which console is right for you. I'm simply here to just guide you on this journey. So I hope you like this little scientific test, this little psychology exam that we did here, and I think you guys did enjoy it though, because it was sort of different, it was sort of fun. I don't, want to sit here and just preach my opinions to you guys and say, this is the console you need to get, when realistically, it's all about you and what is right for you as a gamer. So let me know in the comment section down below, do you want an Xbox Series X? Do you want a PlayStation 5? How you scored this? Was it a 4-0 sweep for one console, or do you have it 2-2 with a tie at the end, that sort of like what I did with this? I guess it wouldn't be a 4-0 sweep, it would be a 5-0 sweep, because there were 5 categories. Math is hard, man. Math is hard. And as always, thank you guys for checking out this video. If you are new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications. Be sure to check out other videos on the channel. If you missed my Xbox Series X review or the PlayStation 5 review, please go check those out, because I get a little bit more in depth with both of these systems, and you can get a better glimpse of both of these systems in action as well. And as always, folks, I'll catch you guys on that next video, who will probably be in a couple days. Later.